About to begin the back end of our FNN doubleheader tonight as the boys varsity teams from Cherokee County and Southside make their way out on the playing court here at the Comp. James Hardy with you, and we'll send it over to Jim Jacobs with our first of our two head coaches tonight.
All right, let's start with Cherokee County. And Coach, I don't know what to say. It looks like the Grinch stole your team.
Yeah, we're having to play some guys that normally don't play at this level, but we just got to come out here and compete and play the best we can. We got a basketball, so we got to go as hard as we can, do what we can to try to win the game.
Okay, before the bug hit you, for folks that are, finding out about Cherokee County basketball for the first time this season, tell us how your season's gone so far.
Well, we've had a little bit of a slow start, and coming off football, we've had 4 practices and 3 games. We're 0-3 right now. So we're starting to find our legs a little bit. We got to start doing a better job finding our shots now and limiting turnovers. But overall, we got a bunch of new guys to the varsity level. So we've got 2 guys that came back from last year, and then the rest are all new to varsity basketball. So we're still learning the speed of the game. And like I said, we got to knock some of the football off, but it's about time to turn that page.
People don't understand, Coach, that football shape and basketball shape are really 2 different animals, aren't they?
Oh, definitely. Basketball, you're back and forth the whole time. Football is about 6 seconds at a time. So finding that rhythm, finding that groove, and then at the same time being dead in your legs and being able to use your upper body at the same time shooting the ball. So we just got to find our touch. We got a physical bunch. And like I said, a lot of those guys are out tonight, but our young guys are going to try to step up, and they just got to play hard, and whatever mistakes we make, we'll learn from them and grow, and hopefully we'll get better from it.
All right, Coach, good luck. We'll see you at the break.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Jim. As you just heard from Coach Caleb Hayes for Cherokee County, this is their 4th game of the season and their first road game of the 23-24 season. As we'll hear from Southside head coach Chad Holderfield with our Jim Jacobs.
All right, we're gonna grab Coach here in just a second, James. He's got to meet with the officials here at the break, so we'll come back down over here in just a minute.
Sure thing. As you look at these 2 teams, Southside averaging 51.7 per game, giving up 63 per game. As here's Jim with Coach Holderfield.
Coach, the officials are a whole lot more important than I am.
Yeah, well, yeah, when they call, you kind of have to come, so I apologize.
That's all right. Talk about your season so far for folks that are just tuning in for Southside basketball.
Well, we had a load of injuries during football, guys that got hurt in football, so we are a relatively young, kind of inexperienced team. We played a really good schedule so far, a lot of competition. Guys are getting better every day. Just excited to compete one more time.
Coach, a lot of people, we talked about this with Coach down at Cherokee County here just a moment ago. A lot of people don't understand the difference between football shape and basketball shape. It's a real adjustment for the guys, isn't it?
It does. It takes a little bit of time. About half of our guys are football guys, so it takes them about 2 or 3 weeks, but they should be there by now, so hopefully we're ready.
Keys to the game tonight for your guys?
We need to do a good job of physicality. We need to do a great job of rebounding. Need to be really good defensively, not turn the ball over.
See you at the break.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, fellas. As Cherokee County will take on Southside. And for the Southside Panthers, 2-9 overall on the season. And they dropped their first area game to Alexandria here at the Comp last weekend. Looking ahead for Southside, they'll have one more game here in the 2023 calendar year, a short trip over to Gaston, just a few miles up Highway 411 in the Gadsden metro area. And then Cherokee County will have their next game after today to begin the new year on January 2nd in Alexandria.
Hey, let me tell you something. Football shape and basketball shape apply to announcers too.
Right. But we're certainly rolling out the basketballs as far as our FNN high school basketball, a game of the week after a 17-week and then some football season as far as the 23 football season.
Let's get some starting lineups for you.
it's senior night here at Oxford High School, as 5 Oxford seniors will be playing in front of the home folks here at Oxford High School for some of their final times as far as a regular season home game in an Oxford Yellow Jackets uniform. But they have another big area game coming up tonight as one of the top teams in the state of Alabama in Class 6A comes to town. It's Fort Payne and Oxford for our FNN High School basketball game of the week. And we welcome you into the FNN High School basketball game of the week. Happy game day wherever you're watching us from. James Hardy, Jim Jacobs with you. And Jim, when you talk about Fort Payne, obviously a great season so far at 21-2, but Oxford comes in 12-16, but when you look at their season, they may be actually a little better than their record indicates.
Well, that is obvious by the number of games that they've lost by 5 points or less. I think you were telling me earlier that's in double digits.
That's right.
So Oxford, obviously a good basketball team. They're going to be really solid here at home tonight. And what can you say about Fort Payne? The Robbie Coker experiment has worked. 21-2 as he comes in to take over for, the program up there and try to right that ship and get it in the same competitive vein that he had Plainview for all those years.
And when you look for Oxford, one of their losses that they've had by 5 or less has been their last matchup with Fort Payne about a month ago, of what was a 47-44 win for Fort Payne. So really for Oxford, this is a night that they can have maybe a signature win as far as their schedule this year.
There is no question that Oxford's got to put a W in the column tonight if they want to fare well in this area. You know, you got Gadsden City, you got Fort Payne, you got Oxford. One of these teams is not going to make it into February late, and because one of them's going out in the area tournament.
But for Fort Payne, this is an opportunity with a win tonight that they can clinch at least a share of Class 6A Area 13.
Yeah, and Oxford hoping to upset that tonight. I don't know that we can top what we saw last night, but I talked to a local coach earlier today. He says he thinks Oxford can beat Fort Payne tonight. We're about to find out on senior night here at Oxford High School.
And we'll find out shortly. We'll talk to our coaches, Coach Robbie Coker and Coach Joel Van Meter, after this timeout. As you're watching the FNN High School basketball game of the week.
Does the crawl space in your home look like this? Standing water and high humidity are the perfect makings for mold and wood rot, and that means expensive damages to your home. Solve the problem with a call to the experts at S&H Waterproofing and Construction. They've been turning this into this for over a quarter century. Protect your greatest investment with a free assessment today. Get quality work at a guaranteed lower price. S&H Waterproofing and Construction.
Ace is the place for paint because only Ace offers the extra mile promise. We'll help you get everything you need to paint in one trip, or we'll deliver it free. Premium paint, award-winning service, and the extra mile promise. Ace is the place for paint. Around the block, what you need in stock with service so good it's guaranteed.
At Oxford Lumber, Jacksonville Home Center, Talladega Home Center, Roanoke Home Center, or online at oxfordlumber.com.
Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, folks.
It's tip-off time, and from all of us at Bucks Island,
run the floor with the Loft Tackle Store.
Get the assist from the team in service.
drive the paint with the parts team.
Shoot the lights out with the sales team.
It's a slam dunk with Bucks Island. Go get them and run them out your gym.
Treating our customers the way we want to be treated since 1948. BucksIsland.com or call 1-800-I-AM-READY. Let our team help you win on the water.
The FNN High School basketball game of the week continues tonight from the Oxford Sports Arena here on the campus of Oxford High School. James Hardy with you and Jim Jacobs courtside as we'll visit with both of our coaches, with Coach Robbie Coker for Fort Payne and Joel Van Meter for Oxford.
And we will start with Coach Coker from Fort Payne. Coach, you come in 21-2 tonight. It's been the experiment's worked so far.
Yeah, no doubt. Our kids have been unbelievable. Really got hot early on in the season, and it just really built and built and built. And this group's really worked, and it's been fun just to be a part of it.
Robbie, what's it been like to make the transition from where you were to this type of 6A ball? I mean, what's the difference?
There's no difference, man. Kids are kids. There's no level of programs. There's only a level of players, and we're very fortunate. We've got a good group of guys that work on their game and are very unselfish and play the game the right way.
Talk about what this game tonight means for area play.
If you can figure it out, you better be a math genius. It could have a lot of implications. It could have no implications, 3-team areas, that might be the biggest difference so far, being the coach at Fort Payne. We just want to put our best foot forward. Obviously, you want to win the game and give your team the best chance to host the area tournament.
Thanks for your time, Coach.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Coach Coker, and thank you, Jim, as Fort Payne under first-year head coach Robbie Coker, who you just heard from, 21-2 on the season. They come in at number 9 in Class 6A in the state of Alabama, according to the Alabama Sports Writers Association Top 10 rankings. And we have Coach Joel Van Meter for Oxford, and we'll send it back down with Jim Jacobs.
Well, for what has gone well for Robbie Coker in Fort Payne, it has not been an indicative season for the Oxford Yellow Jackets. Obviously, the record kind of misleading, Coach. I mean, you guys have just not done so well in some games and just come up a little short.
Yeah, a lot of 4 and 5 point losses, 1 possession, 2 possession losses this year. Injuries have been a huge thing to us, and we just tried to overcome them.
Talk about how your team has overcome the Calhoun County tournament loss to Jacksonville and how ready they are for tonight.
Well, I think they want to have these seniors go out with a bang. They mean a lot to our program. I think we understand that we're in a position where if we win tonight and then we can go and do what we need to do on Friday night, we can even this thing up, 3-way tie in the area. I think that's a huge key to know that you still have a chance. And I think they'll be ready to go. We're going to play hard. Bottom line is we're going to have to make some shots and keep them from making more.
And, of course, when you talk about that 3-team area, a really good basketball team is going to be left out when all that's over.
Yeah, no question. Fort Payne's obviously had an unbelievable season. Robbie's done a great job. Coach Graves at Gadsden City has done a tremendous job there, and they're a very good basketball team, and we're fighting to stay alive. And, we've dealt with a lot of injuries. Our starting 2 and 3 are out, but I think we're still a pretty good team. So somebody's going to be sitting at home that somebody else isn't going to want to play.
Somebody we both know said he thinks you'll win tonight.
Well, I don't know about all that, but I hope we play well.
Yeah, you just hope he's right?
Yeah, no doubt.
Thanks, Joel.
Thanks.
Well, we'll find out who wins shortly in about an hour and a half or so, as Oxford has a chance for their signature victory on the season. So they got a top 10 foe and number 9 Fort Payne rolling into the Big O tonight. We'll go ahead and step aside, and we'll have starting lineups and tip-off between Oxford and Fort Payne after this time out as you're watching the FNN High School Basketball Game of the Week.
The Calhoun County Commission, made up of Fred Wilson, Danny Shears, Carolyn Henderson, Terry Howell, and Lee Patterson, ask you to take a look at what Calhoun County has to offer. Our beautiful parks, neighborhoods, recreational facilities, historic sites, and museums. Our citizens enjoy a high quality of life and strongly support the arts. If you're considering expanding or starting a new business, take a look at Calhoun County. You'll be glad you did.
Step into the offices of J. Britt Middlebrook CPA, where you'll find professional one-on-one service for business and individual clients. In this ever-changing tax and economic climate, you can count on receiving the expert advice you need. J. Britt Middlebrook works hard to provide every client what they need to meet all deadlines. Tax season will be here soon. For all your accounting service needs, call or stop by at 1913 Berry Street in Oxford. That's J. Britt Middlebrook, CPA.
Bama Sheds and Pole Barns. Locally and family owned with the best customer service. Custom built to fit your needs with free delivery and setup. Design and price online or stop by and see what we can do for you. Nobody beats our prices and nobody beats our quality. Built in Alabama, made in Alabama. BamaSheds.com.
It's Oxford and Fort Payne for a Class 6A Area 13 showdown, and we're about ready to roll out the red carpet for the starters for both teams for our game tonight.
At guard, number 1, Luke Stevens. At guard, number 4, Nolan Fowler. At forward, number 20, Jackson Banks. And at guard, number 23, Josh Scott. Fort Payne is coached by Coach Robbie Coker. Now for your starting lineup for your Oxford Yellow Jackets. First of all, at guard, number 0, Jalen Alexander. At guard, number 1, Caleb Sanders. At guard, number 4, Chase Truitt.
Pictures.
At forward, number 5, Jordan Kelly. And at forward, number 12, Jaden Lewis. The Yellow Jackets are coached by Coach Joel Van Meter.
So the Oxford Yellow Jackets get set to host the Fort Payne Wildcats, as this is the final area game of the regular season for Fort Payne. And Oxford, after tonight, has one more area game to go on Friday, as they'll make the trip up Highway 431 to Gadsden to take on Gadsden City.
Yep, getting ready for the tip here. Of course, you heard from Coach Van Meter. Oxford kind of got their backs against the wall tonight, James, and they need a big outing.
Yeah, kind of the wounded animal mode is the most dangerous mode as far as for an opposing team to face. So we're about ready to get things underway as Josh Scott wins the tip for Fort Payne as they're in their black tops and bottoms, I should say, in the white tops and bottoms for Oxford. Deflected pass by Jalen Alexander, knocked out of bounds as we are underway here at Oxford High School.
Alexander, one of Oxford's standout players here tonight.
In fact, a 2-year starter as he started most of the season, in fact, pretty much all of the season as a freshman last year. So it'll be looks like a matchup zone look for Oxford to get things started. It's a steal for Alexander initially until he stepped on the sideline. So good effort that time by Jalen Alexander already on defense as he has a pass deflection and then an early steal. So with Alexander stepping on the sideline, Fort Payne will get the ball back as we played almost the first 30 seconds of the opening quarter. There's turnover as Alexander has it. He'll pull up from the free throw line and miss as the rebound goes to Fort Payne. J.J. Willoughby on the board for the Fort Payne Wildcats. So Oxford couldn't cash in on a transition bucket. On the dribble will be Fowler. Scott holds it high. Takes one dribble over to Stevens. High post to Scott. Turns. Double team. Has to kick back out. Stevens goes up against Truitt for Oxford. We played a little more than a minute here in the opening quarter. As good hands that time by Caleb Sanders as he knocks the ball out of bounds and off of Fort Payne. So now already a couple of early turnovers for Fort Payne as Oxford's defense off to a good start. Now the Yellow Jackets looking for the first field goal of this ball game. They come in off of a 56-36 loss in the Calhoun County tournament up at Jacksonville State to the Jacksonville Golden Eagles last week. One of Jacksonville's most impressive performances of the season. There's a good catch underneath the basket and the layup good for two. Jaden Lewis with the game's first points as Oxford on the board first.
Trying to show a little pressure here.
But Fort Payne breaks the pressure. A double team and will have a foul along the Oxford bench at the sideline. So the foul will be on Jaden Lewis. That will be his first personal foul. So it'll be Fort Payne to inbound at the baseline. Caleb Sanders inbounds. Scott gets it in, back to Sanders, or check that back to Stevens for the three. No, as the offensive rebound goes to Fort Payne, and they'll have a trip to the free throw line. Mason Chandler checked in at the last timeout for Fort Payne, and he'll go to the free throw line for a couple of free throws as the foul goes on Caleb Sanders for Oxford, his first. First free throw up, and that rims off. No good. Mason Chandler, a 6'4", 205-pound sophomore forward for the Fort Payne Wildcats. Looks to get Fort Payne on the board and does so. So Chandler with the Wildcats' first point of the ball game. Alexander directs some traffic as he'll angle to the near side. Oxford works against the man-to-man. That's the three, good at the far wing.
And we'll get another look at that one. Nice little pass off to the right side, way outside the arc, knocks it down, pulled the strings for the first time tonight.
Caleb Sanders with the triple, as that's the first three-point field goal for either team in the ball game. Oxford up by 4, still early on, about 2.5 minutes played here in the opening quarter. Fowler with the dribble against the zone as Scott back to Fowler, who tries the three and misses off the side rim. Long rebound goes to Chase Truitt for Oxford.
One thing you'll always see in a Joel Van Meter team is really intense man-to-man, body-to-body defense.
Alexander will dump it down. Lewis tries to back his way in. Good defense, however, by Josh Scott. 5 minutes to go here in the opening quarter. Alexander with the basketball as Oxford has led wire to wire so far. Good entry pass to Lewis, but he can't make the turnaround hook shot. Rebound goes to Josh Scott for Fort Payne as the quick three for Fowler is up and good.
They found Fowler off on the left wing. There he is, just a cross-court pass, nice little jumper, and he puts up the first three tonight for the Wildcats.
So a 5-4 lead for Oxford as they've led wire to wire. So far, the three short, no good as the ball goes out of bounds as Jordan Kelly misfired on his first three attempts of the night.
Our first quarter tonight presented by Oxford Lumber Ace Hardware, with locations, of course, here in Oxford, Jacksonville, Talladega, and Roanoke.
The tall 6'6" forward Jackson Banks into the ball game for Fort Payne as he has the basketball. Also back in J.J. Willoughby as he'll have to pass back toward the midcourt stripe. Stevens, Willoughby, over to Banks, picks up the dribble. Willoughby, cut off baseline. Has to skip over, three up and no good for Scott. Long rebound, however, saved by Willoughby. So Fort Payne a second try as we've played the first half of this first quarter here in Oxford. A loose ball and a steal for Oxford as Jalen Alexander on the move. Whips the pass inside as the shot no good. Put back no good. And the rebound goes to Fort Payne. Jordan Kelly missed the point-blank look as Fowler for three. The other way, got it.
Oxford not getting back, stopping that quick pass down the court. See it all the way across to the left wing. Bang.
Well, also, Jim, a 5-point swing that time as Oxford missed the layup at one end, and then Fort Payne swishes the three on the other.
Was it Kelly that missed it?
It was.
I believe he caught the pass, but he wasn't expecting it.
And just couldn't finish the play underneath the basket.
I mean, he was wide open. It was a beautiful pass.
The Fowler three, by the way, gives Fort Payne their first lead of the night as here's the turnaround for Lewis. That's up and good for two. So Jaden Lewis with his fourth point of the night. A couple of field goals, ties up the game at 7. Both of these teams kind of feeling each other out here early on. Willoughby at the high post out to Fowler. Scott swings it over. Stevens, high post Willoughby, back out to Scott for three. That's no good as the rebound, a foul on the rebound will go on Fort Payne. So Oxford, you had Jaden Lewis primarily that had position on the rebound and draws the Fort Payne Wildcats foul. That'll go on Luke Stevens, and that'll be Nolan Fowler, they'll say, his first personal foul. Just the second team foul for Oxford here in the first half. Or check that their first team foul as Oxford has the basketball. Over to the near side, Caleb Sanders. As on the dribble, the pull-up for Alexander, no good on the three as the rebound goes to Mason Chandler for Fort Payne. Scott on the move. In the corner, Banks dumps it down as the turnaround up and good for 2 for Mason Chandler.
Chandler, good job catching it, turning, squaring up, fighting to get to the rim, and puts it down for Fort Payne's 2 points.
And gives Fort Payne the lead once again. Up by a couple as we're at 1:40 to go, opening quarter. Alexander, top of the key, Truitt. And now to the high post for Kelly. Here's Alexander posting up along the baseline. And now swings it out. Kelly for 3, up, and that's no good as the rebound goes to Fort Payne. Josh Scott on the board. Fort Payne trying to push the tempo as Banks turns, leaves it for Chandler as he turns, shoots, and misses as the rebound fought for and ripped away by Banks as Scott shoots the 3, no. And a fight for the rebound under the basket. A little feisty play for both of these teams on that rebound as they'll call a jump ball, and the possession arrow goes to Oxford.
So the Jackets get it on the tie-up, and you're right, James. It was plumb physical down there in the blocks that trip.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, it got a little heated underneath the basket. Just a couple of rivals going at it in area play.
Well, you got 2 teams here that both have a lot on the line. One's trying to survive, and one's trying to sew things up if they can.
Jaden Lewis crosses the timeline. Hands off to Alexander. Pulls up from the elbow and scores.
Got it.
Very beautiful play that time as Alexander rubs off that pick and able to get free and shoot the elbow jumper. Tied up at 9. 40 seconds left, opening quarter. Solid first quarter so far. Actually, a fairly entertaining first quarter despite the low-scoring nature. 3 up and no good for Willoughby. Alexander on the rebound. Oxford on the run. Alexander thought he had a player cutting to the basket. Instead, it goes out of bounds.
Yeah, thought he had to skip past there and maybe get a quick, easy layup, catch Fort Payne sleeping.
So
what he caught sleeping was his own player.
Yeah, that's one of actually the rare turnovers for Oxford so far here in the first quarter, as they'll go with some full court pressure defensively. Fort Payne slows things down. They can hold for the final shot with 13 seconds to go in the first quarter. Stevens at the point. Over to Willoughby. Uses a Chandler pick as the 3 for Stevens short, no good as the rebound goes to Jaden Lewis. 1 second to go. The half-court heave is up and does, even if it went, it would not have counted as we're through the first quarter. All tied up at 9. A hard-fought battle so far through the first 8 minutes of play as we'll take the timeout and begin the second quarter. After this on the FNN High School Basketball Game of the Week.
Does the crawl space in your home look like this? Standing water and high humidity are the perfect makings for mold and wood rot, and that means expensive damages to your home. Solve the problem with a call to the experts at S&H Waterproofing and Construction. They've been turning this into this for over a quarter century. Protect your greatest investment with a free assessment today. Get quality work at a guaranteed lower price. S&H Waterproofing and Construction.
Ace is the place for paint because only Ace offers the extra mile promise. We'll help you get everything you need to paint in one trip, or we'll deliver it free. Premium paint, award-winning service, and the extra mile promise. Ace is the place for paint. Around the block, what you need in stock with service so good it's guaranteed.
At Oxford Lumber, Jacksonville Home Center, Talladega Home Center, Roanoke Home Center, or online at oxfordlumber.com.
Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, folks.
We come to you from Oxford High School. There you take a look at veteran head coach Robbie Coker in his first season at Fort Payne after coming over after a lengthy tenure at Plainview High School.
And a successful one at that.
A highly successful one, as it'll be Fort Payne with the basketball to begin this second quarter as the ball knocked away out of bounds as it was deflected off of Oxford. Took a little bit of time to determine who knocked it out, but it was Elijah Malone in the game that was able to reach in and knock the ball away. So Fort Payne retains control of the basketball. Been a slugfest so far, especially underneath the basket for both teams. As Fort Payne trying to take the lead, been basically back and forth with a couple, if not three, lead changes so far as the ball out of bounds off of Oxford. Some good defense at the guard position from Elijah Malone earlier, as it'll be the ball out of bounds going to Fort Payne.
Yeah, it's a staple of a Joel Van Meter team. They're going to get in your grill, James.
So about 7:24 left until halftime. Willoughby at the high post, going up against the man-to-man. Willoughby cut off, back out to Fowler. Fowler a couple of threes so far in the first quarter, as Willoughby finds help. Back to Willoughby from Stevens, as Willoughby dumps it down. Willoughby gets the return pass from Chandler, as the pass back out to Fowler. Willoughby high post. Great defense so far by Oxford, as the drive by Stevens turns, shoots, and scores. Luke Stevens, his first points of the night, as Fort Payne takes a 2-point lead. Fort Payne comes into tonight giving up just under 46 points per ball game. And Oxford, not too bad themselves, allowing just about 52.5 points per game defensively. Oxford with the basketball as Jaden Lewis at the top of the key to Alexander. Jalen Alexander finds Sanders. Back to Alexander. Not a lot of fouls blown so far, just 3 between these two teams in the first quarter.
Yeah, they're letting them play.
Alexander on the drive, runs over defender, no whistle, as Lewis for 3, up and rims out, no good. Rebound goes to Luke Stevens for Fort Payne as Fowler spots up for the 3, no good. But
he got fouled.
Indeed, he'll have a trip to the free throw line.
Yep.
So
that is Fowler's spot. If you'll notice, anytime Fort Payne has a break, Fowler is going to that spot over on the left wing. He's just going to sit there and, hopefully catch a pass like he just got.
And the free throw good for Fowler, so he's up to a game-high 7. Deshaun Callaway with his first personal foul. 2 more free throws to go as the second, like the first, up and good. So Callaway exits. Chase Truitt back in on the substitution for Oxford.
Our second quarter presented by personal injury attorney Stephen R. Morris, serving Alabama and Georgia.
Fowler perfect on 3 free throws as Fort Payne takes their largest lead of the night, up 5. And this is Oxford's senior night, celebrating 5 seniors on the roster for the Yellow Jackets this season. Lewis goes in against the double team, and we'll have a whistle and a foul on the play.
Man, it is tough down in that paint, isn't it?
Yeah, indeed. It's
brutal.
And you better not expect, as far as the officials, to bail you out with the contact either, as that'll be a foul on Luke Stevens, his first. Inbounds for Alexander, floats it in to Lewis, goes in, lays it up, and in for 2.
Good work by Lewis that time. Caught it, spun into the lane, used the right hand, little floater, and got it to go down.
Lewis with almost half of Oxford's points, actually a little over half of them, as Stevens tries the 3 and buries it. So Fort Payne now with their 3rd triple of the night, the first for Luke Stevens, as there you see him burying that 3 from the far wing. So 5 for Stevens.
You heard Coach Van Meter say in the interview early they had to stop their shooters.
Alexander tries the 3 and misses, as we'll have an over the back foul on Jaden Lewis, looks like. And if it is, that'll be a second. And it is indeed, so that's a big foul for Oxford, as that'll put, at least in the game, their leading scorer with 2 fouls, and that'll put him on the bench for much of the rest of the 4:54 here in the first half. So full court pressure for the Yellow Jackets, as Scott floats that pass over to Willoughby, as that's taken away and stolen. Truitt on the steal, as Oxford has it over to our far side, off to your left side as you're watching at home. Alexander tries to drive, pulls up a tough contested jumper, no, but he's going to go to the free throw line for a couple. Jalen Alexander, Jim, kind of bailed out that time. Not the best decisions that time, taking that long deuce, but
yeah,
Fort Payne
he did it falling backwards too, and normally those aren't going to go in.
And in fact, that's going to be Josh Scott's first personal foul. Alexander to the line as he misses the first. A couple of first quarter points, but Alexander, other than some of his defense in the first quarter, really hasn't had that great of a start so far tonight, as he'll make 1 out of 2. Kind of a quiet beginning right now for Alexander, as he has 3 for the game.
We get him at the line again. Maybe Garrett can get us a good shot of his shoes. I want you to see the shoes Alexander's wearing. They're pretty sweet.
Well, I'm sure we'll have plenty of time to be able to check on some of the swag for Jalen Alexander. Fort Payne with the basketball as Scott goes in, lays it up, no. Rebound, however, in the putback for Jackson Banks. Nobody stopped Scott initially on the penetration, and on the back end, nobody blocked out Banks on the offensive rebound.
Got it and put it back.
Here's Alexander on the drive. Has to kick out due to good interior defense as Alexander gets the return pass from Truitt. Oxford, with less than 4 minutes to go, opening half, finds themselves down 7. Kind of in need of a basket here as driving baseline, Alexander kicks out. Solid defense shown by Fort Payne as there's an offensive foul that goes on Chase Truitt. So that'll be his first personal foul and the team's 3rd here in the second quarter for Oxford.
You know, there should be no surprise here that, you know, this is a Robbie Coker coached basketball team, and just like his old Plainview squads, they just chip away and chip away and chip away, and you look up and you're down 15.
Here's a pull-up 3 up and off the mark for Banks as the rebound goes to Jalen Alexander as he'll push it in transition. Pulls up, 3 ball, no good. Rebound tipped around and goes to Fort Payne. Oxford 1 and done that time as Fort Payne across the timeline. Luke Stevens, extra pass to Banks. Scott fakes and travels with the basketball.
Little bunny hop.
Yeah, forgot to put the ball on the floor that time as Oxford forces the turnover. Now, Fort Payne has had a few issues as far as turning the ball over here in the first half, but they've played some stingy defense so far in this first half. They've only allowed Oxford 3 points so far here in the second quarter. Pull-up 3 for Alexander. That's in the hole.
How about that shot?
From the parking lot that time, Jalen Alexander, you'll take a look. About NBA range that time.
Yeah,
but
that was a good 5 feet outside the arc.
But, yeah, no hesitation from Alexander as he drills his first 3. So he's now up to 6 points in the ball game. Under 3 minutes to go here in the first half. Fort Payne still up by a couple of possessions. Not a good pass that time, but fortunate that leads to a 3, no good for Scott. That's a long rebound tracked down by Fort Payne. Fort Payne got away with an entry pass that got deflected by Oxford as they'll have a second chance at the basket. Here's the turn for Willoughby. Kicks out for the 3 ball, up and good. And a foul and an opportunity for a 4-point play for Josh Scott. You take a look at the 3 ball there, and I beg your pardon, Luke Stevens on the 3 ball as he is now up to 8 points in the ball game. And the foul for Anthony Davis, his first as the free throw good for Stevens. He's now up to 9. So on that 4-point play, he practically doubled his point total for the night. He's the game high leader in scoring as the lead up to 8 as the 3 for Alexander, no good. And the rebound goes to Oxford with a reach-in foul on Fort Payne. And Jim, it seems about the last 3 possessions that when Jalen Alexander has gotten across the timeline, he's just pulled up and taken the shot without at least initiating any sort of half-court offense.
He's basically tried to take the team and put him on his back.
So the foul will go on Luke Stevens. That's his second personal foul for Fort Payne. And the team's 3rd. Under 2 minutes to go, opening half. Alexander pulls up, 3 ball up and good. So Jalen Alexander starting to feel a little rhythm now as he's up to 9 to lead Oxford in scoring.
Big-time players make big-time plays, and one right there for Alexander.
So 3 players, 2 for Fort Payne, and Alexander for Oxford tied for the game-high lead with 9. A 5-point lead for Fort Payne as the 3 ball for Josh Scott rims in.
Yeah, Fort Payne starting to warm up outside the arc now.
And there you take a look. Josh Scott, when he got that ball, no hesitation on that release and sinks it from the near wing. 26 Fort Payne, Oxford 18. 3 ball by Alexander up and good.
He's feeling it.
Up to a dozen, 9, or check that, 10 so far here in the second quarter.
Yeah, a little Euro step there, cross dribble, and bang.
There's Scott, tries the 3, almost the same spot, no good this time, but the rebound goes to Fort Payne and a rebounding foul on Oxford. J.J. Willoughby got that rebound, and I think that might have been Caleb Sanders, and it was indeed Caleb Sanders, his second personal foul. So that'll send Fort Payne to the free throw line because that is the 5th team foul for Oxford here in the second quarter. Free throws coming up as J.J. Willoughby hits the first. So we'll have an Oxford substitution as the next free throw up, and that's good. So Willoughby on the board, 27-21. Fort Payne has led for about the last quarter and a half or so of this ball game, and actually most of this ball game. But Oxford still hanging around as they'll hold for what appears to be the final shot here in the first half. Jalen Alexander hot so far here, especially late in the second quarter. 3 threes in about the last 2.5 minutes of play.
And I don't think there's any question about who's going to take this thing.
In fact, Fort Payne knows that because they're meeting him with almost a triple team, and they force the turnover. 5 seconds to go. Fort Payne with the basketball as Scott up ahead fires up the 3, no good as we come to halftime.
Well, that was interesting.
A very physical, hard-fought first half for both of these teams as Fort Payne takes a 6-point lead into the halftime locker room. We'll take the timeout and have our halftime coverage after this as you're watching the FNN High School Basketball Game of the Week.
The Calhoun County Commission, made up of Fred Wilson, Danny Shears, Carolyn Henderson, Terry Howell, and Lee Patterson, ask you to take a look at what Calhoun County has to offer. Our beautiful parks, neighborhoods, recreational facilities, historic sites, and museums. Our citizens enjoy a high quality of life and strongly support the arts. If you're considering expanding or starting a new business, take a look at Calhoun County. You'll be glad you did.
It's tip-off time, and from all of us at Bucks Island,
run the floor with the Loft Tackle Store.
Get the assist from the team in service.
drive the paint with the parks team.
Shoot the lights out with the sales team.
It's a slam dunk with Bucks Island. Go get them and run them out your gym.
Treating our customers the way we want to be treated since 1948. BucksIsland.com or call 1-800-I-AM-READY. Let our team help you win on the water.
Bama Sheds and Pole Barns. Locally and family owned with the best customer service. Custom built to fit your needs with free delivery and setup. Design and price online or stop by and see what we can do for you. Nobody beats our prices and nobody beats our quality. Built in Alabama, made in Alabama. BamaSheds.com.
Does the crawl space in your home look like this? Standing water and high humidity are the perfect makings for mold and wood rot, and that means expensive damages to your home. Solve the problem with a call to the experts at S&H Waterproofing and Construction. They've been turning this into this for over a quarter century. Protect your greatest investment with a free assessment today. Get quality work at a guaranteed lower price. S&H Waterproofing and Construction.
It's Fort Payne 27 and Oxford 21 on tonight's FNN High School basketball game of the week from Oxford High School to Oxford Sports Arena. James Hardy, Jim Jacobs, and our FNN crew. So we'll take a look at what was a very hard-fought first half as Caleb Sanders sinks the first three at the ball game for Oxford. But
it was, look at this little guy over here, Fowler in the corner.
Yeah, Nolan Fowler sinks the three. One of his 2 3-point baskets en route to 9 in the first half.
There's another one.
In fact, almost the same spot that time as his first.
You know, one thing the highlights don't show, James, is how physical it's been down in the box.
Absolutely.
It's been a war.
Another Fort Payne threes. We'll take a look at Jalen Alexander pull-up from NBA range. 3 of his first half high 12 points, a game high 12. And then a three-pointer top of the key for Luke Stevens, as the three ball certainly has helped Fort Payne build this 6-point lead, but Jalen Alexander has done a lot to keep Oxford in this one. Another three ball and good for Josh Scott. A total of 5 threes in the first half for Fort Payne, but Jalen Alexander's hot finish to the first half, really a key for Oxford still being able to be within striking distance, as there's still plenty of ball game left as we still have a whole half of basketball to go.
Absolutely. Fort Payne on top 27-21. Now, let us remind you, after tonight, next on our schedule, doesn't mean it's going to be next up, but next on our schedule is the Northeast Regionals for the NFHS Network, all 42 games starting on February the 13th. I think that's a Tuesday, and we'll be playing through the middle part of the following week, 9 straight days. We have Sunday off during that period, but James, we're going to earn our pay that week.
Oh, without question about that, and there'll be quite a few happy teams, players, coaches, family, alumni, as well as far as the 14 schools that will ultimately have their tickets punched to the Magic City for the Final 48.
And there's always just incredible basketball at these things. You know, you get blowouts every now and then, but that's the exception, not the norm. Unless you're playing the Spring Garden Girls.
This is definitely true, and certainly Coach Robbie Coker knows a thing or two as far as the atmosphere for the regionals when it comes to Jacksonville State from his time at Plainview. Once again at halftime, it is Fort Payne 27 and Oxford 21. We'll step aside and we'll have the beginning of the second half between Fort Payne and Oxford here on the FNN High School Basketball Game of the Week.
Ace is the place for paint because only Ace offers the extra mile promise. We'll help you get everything you need to paint in one trip, or we'll deliver it free. Premium paint, award-winning service, and the extra mile promise. Ace is the place for paint. Around the block, what you need in stock, with service so good it's guaranteed.
At Oxford Lumber, Jacksonville Home Center, Talladega Home Center, Roanoke Home Center, or online at oxfordlumber.com.
Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, folks.
The Calhoun County Commission, made up of Fred Wilson, Danny Shears, Carolyn Henderson, Terry Howell, and Lee Patterson, ask you to take a look at what Calhoun County has to offer. Our beautiful parks, neighborhoods, recreational facilities, historic sites, and museums. Our citizens enjoy a high quality of life and strongly support the arts. If you're considering expanding or starting a new business, take a look at Calhoun County. You'll be glad you did.
Bama Sheds and Pole Barns. Locally and family owned with the best customer service. Custom built to fit your needs with free delivery and setup. Design and price online or stop by and see what we can do for you. Nobody beats our prices and nobody beats our quality. Built in Alabama, Made in Alabama. BamaSheds.com.
It's tip-off time, and from all of us at Bucks Island,
run the floor with the Loft Tackle Store.
Get the assist from the team in service. Drive the paint with the parts team.
Shoot the lights out with the sales team.
It's a slam dunk with Bucks Island. Go get them and run them out your gym.
Treating our customers the way we want to be treated since 1948. BucksIsland.com or call 1-800-I-AM-READY. Let our team help you win on the water.
Our second high school game of the week tonight, as far as the FNN high school basketball game of the week.
Heck, man, it's our second game in 24 hours.
That's right. That's right. After we had a thriller over in the eastern portion of Calhoun County last night for White Plains, as they picked up a top 5 win in the state of Alabama over number 2 ranked Jacksonville last night in Class 4A play.
Yeah, great basketball game, and just hope we might get that kind of finish here tonight. You know, if you're Joel Van Meter in the locker room, my guess is he's telling his guys they've got to find some way to play around Jalen, Alexander, instead of just him trying to carry the whole team. And this is a byproduct of the injuries and stuff that Joel talked about. You know, his 5 is really not out there. He's trying to find chemistry with 5 guys that aren't really his starters. And you got a guy like Alexander that's just going to try to put the team on his back. If he does that the rest of the second half, Oxford's not going to win this basketball game.
Yeah, when you look at the scoring in the first half, Alexander has a game-high 12. Jaden Lewis, before he had foul trouble, had 6 points, and then Caleb Sanders with a 3. But other than that, there's been no scoring from Oxford. And then on the other side, you have for Fort Payne 9 each from Luke Stevens and Nolan Fowler, and then 3 each from Josh Scott and Mason Chandler, a couple from Jackson Banks, and a free throw from J.J. Willoughby.
Yeah, my guess is Robbie Coker told his kids, follow the process. It's working just like it's supposed to. Let's say thank you to our primary sponsors this season for FNN's high school basketball, S&H Waterproofing and Construction, the folks at Bucks Island, and Bama Sheds Pole Barns located over in Lincoln. So we're set for second half action. Let's see who can make the right adjustments. Can Oxford find some kind of chemistry, some kind of flow to what they're doing offensively?
Oxford and Fort Payne were tied at 9 after the first quarter, and then Fort Payne a big second quarter as they outscored Oxford 18-12 to take a 27-21 lead coming into the start of the third quarter. Deshaun Callaway inbounds as Callaway will bring it across the timeline. Oxford with the basketball to begin this third quarter, looking for a signature win on senior night. Here's the drive for Jaden Lewis as he shoots and misses the fadeaway, and the rebound goes to Willoughby for Fort Payne.
Good box out by Willoughby.
Stevens on the dribble meets the man-to-man half-court defense for Oxford. High post look for Banks. Back out to Stevens. Fort Payne's showing some patience in their half court as Banks back out to Fowler. Fort Payne with 5 threes in the first half. That was a big help to them taking a 6-point lead into the halftime locker room. Banks at the top of the key. Approaching 1 minute played here in the second half. Third quarter play. And the final regular season area game for Oxford as there's a steal for Alexander. Alexander on the drive, floats it up and misses as the rebound goes to Fowler. This is actually the final area game for Fort Payne this season as the layup no for Noah Fowler and the rebound to Jaden Lewis for Oxford, who brings it up himself. Sanders back out to Alexander as a mishandle goes out of bounds, and just falling really mentally asleep that time across the way was Chase Truitt as he just let the ball go through his hands and then eventually out of bounds. So a mental error that time for Oxford turns the ball over to Fort Payne. Stevens with the basketball. Corner three up, and that's good for Josh Scott. Scott, his second triple. As you'll take a look at the assist that time from Jackson Banks as Scott buries his second triple. 9-point lead for Fort Payne, their largest of the night, as Sanders floats it in. Great catch that time by Lewis as he'll go to the line for two after the foul from J.J. Willoughby.
Yeah, Lewis doing a nice job trying to get to the rim. Got fouled going up. He'll go to the line and try to knock down a couple.
Not the easiest of passes to catch that time for Jaden Lewis, and let's see if he rewards himself with a couple of free throws. First up, the Rainmaker is good. So Lewis with 7. As there you take a look at the junior forward.
Got in foul trouble in the first half. Had to sit a little while.
It really kind of hurt Oxford, especially defensively, as he has 7 and stays that way as the free throw no good. So an 8-point advantage as a steal for Alexander. Pulls up, 3-ball, got it.
Well, he likes that pull-up jumper, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's kind of the patented move as he's up to 15. As you'll take a look at him in transition, make the three as Sanders almost comes up with the steal at half court for Oxford. Lead down to 5 for Fort Payne as they operate. Looks like a matchup zone now for Oxford as Banks backs in, leaves it off, and throws it away. Lewis on the steal, leads the break, and now pulls things out for Alexander. Alexander pulls up 3. No, as that rims out. Loose ball goes to Lewis as he banks it. No. Rebound, however, for Truitt as he misses the putback as the rebound goes to Fort Payne.
Oh, just a great opportunity there for Oxford and couldn't cash in.
And there's a great effort that time by Alexander as the ball is saved in to Fort Payne. Only one foul whistled so far in this third quarter. We've almost played 3.5 minutes of this third quarter.
Yeah, officials are letting them play.
There's a great pass in and the layup good for 2 for Willoughby. Looked as if Banks went baseline and found Willoughby in the paint all alone for the layup.
Yeah, Willoughby kind of bailed him out too.
So that's the first field goal for J.J. Willoughby as he has 3. Basically a 4-point swing that time as Oxford had a couple of chances on the other end in transition. They couldn't cash in. Here's Lewis down low block. Tries to go in, runs over defender, no whistle as he puts it in for 2. Play on, say the officials that time, and that's exactly what Jaden Lewis did on the field goal. A near steal, a loose ball, and it will be a steal for Oxford. Active hands that time and good quickness by the Oxford defense as they come up with the turnover.
Lead is 5.
They can cut the lead to 3 with a 2 or with a triple down to 2. Looks as if Fort Payne operates in some zone as the top of the key 3 up, and that's the back rim, no good for Sanders. Rebound, however, for Lewis as Malone shoots no, and the rebound goes off the block to Fort Payne. Luke Stevens picks up the dribble, needs help, and gets it into the paint. Here's the turnaround shot off the glass and in for Josh Scott. Scott, his first 2-point field goal. So he has 5 of his 8 here in the third quarter. Lead up to 7. Under 3 minutes to go in a swiftly played third quarter. Oxford trying to get some momentum down the stretches. Alexander with a tough pull-up for 2. I tell you what, that might have been one of his toughest shots we've seen all night long. 2 people around him at the baseline, and Alexander cool as a cucumber that time as we have a timeout.
And we will take it right here with Fort Payne up over Oxford by 6 on FNN.
Does the crawl space in your home look like this? Standing water and high humidity are the perfect makings for mold and wood rot, and that means expensive damages to your home. Solve the problem with a call to the experts at S&H Waterproofing and Construction. They've been turning this into this For over a quarter century, protect your greatest investment with a free assessment today. Get quality work at a guaranteed lower price. S&H Waterproofing and Construction.
Timeout on the floor at 2 minutes, 40 seconds to go in the third quarter, and Oxford hanging around in this ball game as they're only down 5, 34-29.
Yep, just, we're under, 3 minutes left to go in the third. The third quarter of tonight's game is brought to you by Bluefin Sushi and Japanese Steakhouse. And, of course, this is a Calhoun County Commissioner Danny Shears timeout that Joel Van Meter teed up there before the ball could get put back into play after that quick basket.
In fact, that was one of the toughest shots in my mind that Jalen Alexander has made the entire night, with basically a double team on him and the baseline right beside him, and he just pulled up and made about a 15-foot fadeaway. Full court pressure for Oxford as Fort Payne breaks it. Nolan Fowler, along with J.J. Willoughby, helped break that press. It's a good entry pass, but a block.
Get that out of here.
Yeah, Luke Stevens had a good entry pass that time, but the shot blocked out of there as Josh Scott had his shot swatted out of bounds.
I mean, that was exterminated.
Indeed, as we'll have the ball go out of bounds, and we'll have a little maintenance to be done as far as looks like a little wet spot on the floor. So right now, Oxford being led by a game-high 17 from Jalen Alexander. And then for Fort Payne, they have basically 3 players tied for a team-high lead. Stevens and Fowler still with 9, and Josh Scott right behind them with 8.
Other than the open threes for both teams, really, points have been hard to come by.
And, yeah, Fort Payne has had a lot of issues against the pressure, as we'll have a timeout for Fort Payne.
Yeah, Robbie Coker saving that possession. Baseball pass way in the backcourt there, and his player kind of trapped there on the Oxford baseline.
And, yeah, the full court pressure and some of the half-court traps have been a big problem so far for Fort Payne when they've tried to set up in the half court.
Yeah, Commissioner Danny Shears timeout here on FNN as Coker and Van Meter give directions to their squads. Still anybody's basketball game. It's a 6-point deficit with 2:19 left to go here in the third quarter. And while the guys take the timeout, let us remind you that voting is open. The S&H Waterproofing and Construction fan vote is on, and all you have to do is go to our Facebook page and cast your vote for the Coach of the Year, the Team of the Year, and the Player of the Year, and we will name them all coming up on awards night on March 20th.
Less than 2 months away. Full court pressure for Oxford as there's a deflection and a steal.
Good steal.
Active hands again for the Yellow Jackets of Oxford as Alexander brings it across the timeline. Alexander angles toward the near side. Yellow Jackets work it around. Good movement away from the ball right now for Oxford as they're trying to get it inside. Now Alexander pulls up for the floater.
Well,
That's
wasn't
no
even close,
good.
yeah.
So rebound goes to Josh Scott. Fort Payne with it. Stevens over to Scott with 1:40 to go in the third quarter.
You know, James, I can't decide what the pace of this game, which team it favors. It's just a weird pace.
There's top the key Willoughby. Over to Stevens as he nearly lost it, and in large part due to an Oxford foul. So the foul will go on Caleb Sanders. That'll be his third personal foul, and that's the first Oxford foul here in the second half. 1:26 left in a rather rapid third quarter due to the lack of fouls so far for both of these teams. Inbounds pass and missed layup that time for Scott. As a battle for the rebound, Scott got it back, and we'll have 2 shots coming up after another Oxford foul.
Boy, that was just tough. But the inbounds pass to lob to the basket, that was too easy. So Oxford wasn't ready for it.
Jordan Kelly whistled for his first as the free throw up and good for Luke Stevens. So Stevens, the first Fort Payne player in double figures with 10. One more free throw to go up, and that's good. So Stevens up to 11. Lead up to 7 for Fort Payne. Fort Payne has led for the vast majority of the night. Oxford had a brief lead in the first quarter, but since then, Fort Payne has led ever since. Oxford with the basketball. 1 minute to go here in the third quarter. Alexander pulls up from the free throw line. That's short, no good, and the rebound goes to Fort Payne. Mason Chandler on the last rebound as Scott yells for some help and gets it in the form of Luke Stevens. Stevens yo-yos the basketball. A matchup zone defense for Oxford. Clock approaches 30 seconds as Willoughby over to Scott in front of the Fort Payne bench. Fort Payne looks as if they might hold for the quarter's final shot.
Robbie Coker teams are proficient at stalling with the basketball. Oxford's got to have this thing under 10 going in the fourth, I think, to have a shot.
10 seconds to go here in the quarter. Scott with the dribble, picks it up as Chandler dumps it down. Good passing to Willoughby as he puts it in, but an offensive foul.
Wipe it off the board.
So that is a big foul that time for Willoughby, as that would have given Fort Payne a 9-point lead, but instead Willoughby second. If this game goes down to the wire, Jim, you may have to store that play in the memory bank. As in this type of low-scoring ball game, every play like that is very precious. 2 seconds to go.
Going to have to throw it long to have a chance.
Looks as if Malone triggers it in and does so, and the baseball pass no good from about 70 feet as we go to the end of the third quarter. Once again, a hard-fought quarter as Fort Payne able to maintain their lead as they're up 7, 36-29. 8 more minutes to go. The final quarter coming up here on the FNN High School Basketball Game of the Week.
Ace is the place for paint because only Ace offers the extra mile promise. We'll help you get everything you need to paint in one trip, or we'll deliver it free. Premium paint, award-winning service, and the extra mile promise. Ace is the place for paint. Around the block, what you need in stock with service so good it's guaranteed.
At Oxford Lumber, Jacksonville Home Center, Talladega Home Center, Roanoke Home Center, or online at oxfordlumber.com.
Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, folks.
The final 8 minutes coming up as there you take a look at Coach Robbie Coker in his first season with Fort Payne as their boys varsity head coach, giving instructions to his team as far as what he wants to see out of his Fort Payne Wildcats for the final 8 minutes, and the same thing for Joel Van Meter as Oxford still has a window of opportunity as far as battling back in and making a game of this down the stretch.
And they'll fight, they'll claw, they'll play defense, and we'll see what happens. This final quarter tonight brought to you by David's Appliance, located up in Center. And if you need washers, dryers, freezers, refrigerators, dishwashers, quality high-end appliances at affordable wholesale prices, go see our buddy at David's Appliance.
Fort Payne with the basketball as the fourth quarter underway. Stevens, high post, over to Banks. Willoughby back to Banks at the high post. Banks passes back out as Fort Payne very comfortable as far as using the clock here in the fourth quarter.
You see, when Banks catches that, he's trying to get one of his teammates to flash in just like that.
A great pass and a better block by Lewis, however. It's a 3 up and no good for Sanders as the rebound goes to Josh Scott. Banks all alone goes in and misses the layup as we'll have a late whistle that time and a foul that goes on Oxford.
Oh, I'd like to see that again.
That was a fashionably late whistle that time, Jim.
Yeah, well. And the officials are talking about it too.
You hear the buzz in this crowd as far as that whistle you just heard. As the official from the far side came from almost the Fort Payne bench to make the call.
Did they call goaltending?
I think they did.
I think I saw them signal.
I think you're right, because they just added 2 points on the board. And either way, that was a very late whistle that was blown. And 2 points goes to Fort Payne.
Now there's some discussion as to whether or not, well, no, it's Oxford's basketball. I thought maybe they were going to put Fort Payne on the line for an and one, but Oxford gets it out of bounds, and here we go.
So it'll be a basket for Jackson Banks, his second field goal of the night. He has 4. So Oxford down 9 as Alexander trying to lead his troops closer into this ball game, as Oxford really could use a bucket here.
Yeah, they need a big one to answer.
Alexander at the Oxford logo. Alexander tries to go in, goes baseline, lays it up and in, and he's going to the free throw line for an and one.
Boy, that young man can play.
Well, I think Jalen Alexander, with the injury issues that you've mentioned a couple of times tonight, Alexander senses that he needs to take this team on his shoulders. So the foul goes on Jackson Banks, his first. Free throw up and short, no good, as the rebound fought for, and a foul looks as if on Fort Payne.
Oxford in there fighting for the rebound, number 5.
I mean, you've been pointing out all night long, too. You better have a hard hat if you want to get a rebound under that basket tonight if you're either team.
You don't need to have a skirt on, that's for sure.
Yes.
It's a man's world.
No finesse play allowed under the basket tonight. So the foul on Mason Chandler, his first. Inbounds for, looks like Elijah Malone, as we'll have a timeout for Joel Van Meter. And this is going to be a full timeout, so we will take the timeout with them. 6:43 left in the ball game. Oxford down 7 here on FNN.
It's tip-off time, and from all of us at Bucks Island,
run the floor with the Loft Tackle Store.
Get the assist from the team in service. Drive the paint with the parts team.
Shoot the lights out with the sales team.
It's a slam dunk with Bucks Island. Go get them and run them out your gym.
Treating our customers the way we want to be treated since 1948. BucksIsland.com or call 1-800-I-AM-READY. Let our team help you win on the water.
6 minutes, 43 seconds to go in regulation, as Oxford still trying to hang around in this ball game, but Fort Payne, with some stingy defense tonight, leads 38 to 31.
It's a Calhoun County Commissioner Danny Shears timeout, as David's Appliance brings us our final 8 minutes here tonight from Coach Larry Davidson Court, senior night at Oxford High School.
Now, if you look at this Fort Payne squad, one of the top defenses in Class 6A, they allow about 45 points per ball game, and they've held 14 of their opponents in 23 games to less than 45 points in a game. Oxford with the basketball, as they can cut this lead to 5 with a 2-point field goal, or to 4 with a 3. Here's the drive for Lewis, forces it up, no, as the loose ball rebound goes to Malone, as the shot up, no, as the rebound, however, goes to Luke Stevens.
Oxford has missed so many inside tonight.
Stevens brings it up against the pressure and has to kick it out to Willoughby. So a matchup zone now for Oxford.
There's that high post play. He's looking for somebody to flash, get them on their hip. If not, he kicks it out.
About 2 minutes played here in the fourth quarter.
Watch
Banks
him, he'll turn.
Back out to Stevens. Oxford fans starting to make a little noise, as there'll be a loose ball and a steal, and looks as if a tripping foul goes on Fort Payne. Great hands that time. Not sure who got this, who caused the deflection, rather, as it'll be an Oxford steal and the foul on Fort Payne. It'll be their third team foul here in the quarter, and the third personal on J.J. Willoughby.
I know that young man right there paid the price.
Yeah, Elijah Malone caused the steal.
He ate some pine.
Inbounds goes to Alexander.
Oxford needs a basket.
Here's Malone. Dumps it down to Lewis as he lost it. And throws it away.
Oh, man.
Mishandled the entry pass, and then with his momentum going out of bounds at the baseline, had to do something with it and airmailed his intended receiver and throws it into the Oxford bench. So a big turnover that time for Oxford as Luke Stevens hounded in the backcourt. Nearly throws it away as Willoughby up ahead. Here's Chandler for two on the layup.
That's just great team basketball right there, James.
Mason Chandler with his second field goal. He's up to 5.
And Oxford on the verge of going down double digits.
Here's a deflected pass and a steal for Fort Payne's Josh Scott. Stevens brings it up the floor as Scott slows things down. Fort Payne will bleed a little bit more of the clock as Scott fires the three. No, as the rebound goes to Oxford, as we'll have a foul on the play after the rebound. Jordan Kelly got the rebound and was pushed by a couple of Fort Payne Wildcats defenders, as it'll be a Fort Payne foul, their 4th team foul here in the 4th quarter.
They all went to the floor.
So if you're not going to the floor, you're not doing something right in this ball game. Foul on Mason Chandler, and that will be his 2nd personal foul for Fort Payne.
And there you see the coach out working.
So, yeah, Coach
Robbie Coker.
Coach Coker.
Yep.
Doing a little dirty work out there, trying to help his team to a W on the road tonight. For Fort Payne, their final area game, as they have an opportunity to clinch at least a share of the area title in 6A Area 13 with a win.
Oh, great pass.
But
missed the layup.
Yeah, not able to finish was Jayden Lewis as the rebound goes to Fort Payne. About the point in the quarter where time becomes a factor as we're under 4.5 minutes to go.
Oh, great pass.
Yeah, great entry pass as the layup, no, but a couple of free throws coming up. So Banks to the free throw line for Fort Payne. So that'll be the first team foul for Oxford here in the 4th quarter, and it'll be Caleb Sanders with his 4th for Oxford.
You know, I get the feeling, James, that anybody that's watching this game that has watched this Oxford team all year kind of has the feeling of this is the season in a microcosm, you know? I mean,
exactly.
It's just been that kind of ball game for Oxford. Chippy shots not falling, getting in foul trouble, turning it over at the wrong time. You just can't do that when you play really good teams in your area like Gadsden City and Fort Payne.
Banks sinks 2 of 2 from the free throw line as he's up to 6. Yeah, Oxford's, of their 16 losses, half of them have been by 5 points or less.
I mean, they're a good team, and they've got great talent. They're just not hitting on all cylinders.
4 minutes to go as Fort Payne with the basketball as we have a loose ball. A fight for it as Fort Payne comes out with it. Scott was able to get the ball. Stevens drives in and lays it up, and an offensive foul.
So wipe that one off the board. Break for Oxford there.
Luke Stevens on the charge, his 3rd personal foul.
Got to wipe the floor again. That mop's had a lot of action down on that end of the floor.
Oh, without question. So these two teams have had to earn every bit of their points so far tonight. It was tied up at 9 after the first quarter. At half, Fort Payne led 27-21, and then it was a 36-29 advantage for Fort Payne after 3.
We've seen a lot of physical basketball this year, James, but I think it'd be fair to say this is the most physical game we've seen so far.
Alexander drills a big 3 for Oxford as he's up to 22. We'll take a second look at Alexander's triple. A timeout called on the floor.
Probably Joel Van Meter. I didn't really see who got it, but I think Joel would have been wanting to do that to set up the defense now. 43-34. It's an 8-point game.
Yeah, indeed. The timeout, as Jim mentioned, called by head coach Joel Van Meter for Oxford. So the lead down to 8 now for Fort Payne. Still time at 3:38 to go in the ball game, but Oxford still has a hole that they need to climb out of if they want to make a game of it.
Yeah, the Commissioner Danny Shear's time out. Van Meter telling his kids, hey, we got to create some turnovers. We got to D up.
And they got to finish around the basket. So Oxford and Fort Payne come out of their timeout huddles, as it'll be Fort Payne to inbound against full court pressure. Scott in the backcourt, guarded by Kelly, as Willoughby had his pass deflected, but Scott there to recover. Scott against the double team. Good poise that time, as Fort Payne trying to use some of that clock. At 3:17, a double team, and we'll have a timeout called for by Coach Robbie Coker.
Got to save that possession. Coach Coker gets the TO.
Another 30-second timeout.
For Calhoun County Commissioner Danny Shears. And again, our fourth quarter presented by David's Appliance up in center.
Looking ahead for these two teams as far as their next games, Fort Payne will play on Thursday at home against Westminster Christian of Huntsville. And then Oxford will close out their area schedule at Gadsden City on Friday.
And that'll be an interesting one. There'll be a big crowd for that one. Raphael Graves got the Gadsden City program firing on all cylinders. And
in fact, for Oxford, including Friday night, they just have 2 games left in their regular season. And then for Fort Payne after tonight, they have just 3 left in their regular season.
Well, we're down to it now, James. I mean, it's going to be area play in the first week in February, then the sub-regions, and then, of course, we take over at JSU for the Northeast Regionals on February the 13th.
So, yeah, this is when you want to play your best basketball of the season as Fort Payne. Some issues, but they do get it across the timeline against some full court pressure as a deflection. But here's the 3 up and no good for Stevens. Rebound ripped out of there by Willoughby and a travel. J.J. Willoughby skied up there to get the rebound and then came crashing down to the floor to commit the travel. Substitution for Oxford coming in.
Ill-advised three-point shot there, I think, for Fort Payne.
Yeah, I think you're right about that, as we're under now 3 minutes to go in the ball game. Really no need for them, as you mentioned, Jim, to shoot that 3.
I mean, I think you're looking at layups at this point if you're Fort Payne.
Yeah, that's one in the college and the pro game, one of those you can get at any point. And the clock is Jalen Alexander buries the 3.
Yeah, he just walks casually down the floor, kind of slides off a little screen, and bang.
Alexander up to 25. The lead down to 5 now for Fort Payne. Still plenty of time as Stevens kicks out. Fort Payne works it around the perimeter. Stevens against the double team. Good interior passing that time by Fowler, as it'll be a trip to the free throw line coming up for Mason Chandler.
Boy, I love the way Fort Payne runs their post offense where they get the ball. There's one pass into the lane, but the receiver is looking for his teammate cutting to the basket, and that's what we just saw.
Jackson Banks checked that to the free throw line as he hits the first of a couple. So Banks up to 7. 1 more to go.
Got a feeling we'll see these guys at JSU, James.
By the way, the foul on Jalen Alexander is both free throws made by Jackson Banks, who has 8. Oxford with the basketball.
Trails by 7.
So it'll be Malone over to Sanders. Caleb Sanders picks up the dribble. Over to Malone as he'll drive the paint. Out to Sanders. Kicks out. Kelly, 3 ball up and good.
Got it.
Jordan Kelly's first points of the night come at a very big time as the lead down to 4 for Fort Payne. Stevens nearly throws it away. Out to Willoughby, however, as Stevens will settle things down. And we're under 2 minutes to go in the quarter as Willoughby puts it up and in for 2 off the glass.
Yeah, 3 Oxford players got a swat at it, but none of them made contact. Willoughby gets the layup there for the Wildcats.
Willoughby to 5 as we'll have a reach-in foul called on Fort Payne. 1:28 to go, a 2-possession ball game. As we'll have a foul on Fort Payne on the floor, and that will be at least their 5th team foul, so it'll bring Jalen Alexander to the free throw line for a couple of free throws.
And don't think we don't have plenty of time left, folks.
Free throw up and good for Alexander. A monster night for the sophomore guard as he has 26. One more to go. A made free throw would make this a 4-point lead, a 2-possession game still. Shot up and shot good. So Alexander to 27 points. Yellow Jackets with the full court pressure, and the pass nearly stolen and in fact deflected out of bounds by Oxford. That pass, Jim, was asking to be stolen that time and nearly was stolen.
You just can't throw those kind of cross-court passes against teams that are this fast. They're going to get a hand on it.
So the inbounds pass to be made across from us at the Oxford bench as you take a look at Jackson Banks waiting for some more moisture to be swept off the floor. These two teams have played awfully hard so far tonight.
They played a lot on this floor, too. Meaning on the floor.
Literally, indeed. Banks gets it inbound to Stevens. Full court pressure for Oxford as a deflection by Alexander. Fort Payne able to keep possession, however, as we'll have a reach-in foul go on the Yellow Jackets.
Yeah, you get to the point to where you've got to start fouling just to try to extend the game a little bit.
So it'll be the second personal foul on Anthony Davis and just the third team foul of the quarter for Oxford. Inbounds pass at the Yellow Jackets logo is going in. Stevens makes the layup.
Boy, he went with purpose, didn't he?
He sure did, as he extends the lead to 6 as Alexander kicks out to Sanders. Sanders one extra pass. Malone on the drive as his pass deflected and nearly stolen as it'll stay with Oxford. Kelly set to come off the bench, Jordan Kelly. The substitution for Oxford. As Davis checks out with 50.5 seconds to go in the game. Oxford with the inbounds pass. Malone lobs it in to Alexander. Pulls up. 3-ball, no good as the rebound. A strong one by Banks.
Yeah, over the back here.
And so that'll be just the 4th team foul for Oxford in the quarter. And for Jordan Kelly, that'll be his 2nd personal foul. Offense to defense substitution. Back in will be Anthony Davis. Checking out Jordan Kelly. Full court pressure. As Banks in the backcourt. 40 seconds to go. Fort Payne gets it across the timeline. Next foul would put them at the free throw line as there's the reach-in foul on Oxford.
Yeah, you got no choice now if you're Oxford. You just got to do anything you can to extend the game. And if, obviously if Fort Payne makes the free throws, it's a moot point, but it's just the only option Oxford has left as Josh Scott will go to the line.
Jalen Alexander his 2nd as the free throw up and good for Josh Scott. So Scott, the senior forward, 6'5", or rather the junior forward, I should say. As Scott, one of 4 juniors on the roster this year for Coach Robbie Coker. There's the 2nd free throw good for Josh Scott as he's in double figures with 10. Under 30 seconds to go. Alexander gets tripped on his way to the basket, but travels with the basketball.
Call the travel.
Yeah, not much contact enough to at least warrant a foul call. So the travel on Jalen Alexander. 8-point advantage for Fort Payne. As they're in a very good position.
Here comes the mop again.
We've seen that a whole lot of times tonight.
Yeah, Jalen Alexander leaving his sweat on the floor this time.
I think the mop has been the MVP tonight.
And James, is it going to be another one of those 5-point Oxford tails by the time this thing hits double zeros?
It might be.
It's looking like it, isn't it?
Yeah, we'll find out as far as how many free throws Fort Payne can make down the stretch. Banks inbounds and nearly thrown away, and in fact is thrown away. Up ahead, Malone tries the 3-ball. That's way too strong as That rebound goes out of bounds off of Jaden Lewis. Goes right to the floor that time, gives it all it was worth, and couldn't keep the ball in bounds. So Jordan Kelly checks back out for Oxford. As Oxford struggling offensively tonight, just 42 points on the board.
There's Mr. Mop again. Kirby's got us a good close-up of that action down there in the corner.
Yeah, the Mop action, at least the Mop getting tons of work tonight.
James has already anointed the Mop the MVP of the game.
In fact, you just saw there, J.J. Willoughby looked as if he slipped on a towel, and they might have to bring that Mop back
There it
out.
comes.
But it tells you just how hard the players on both teams have played tonight.
I mean, I don't think we've seen a game this year in all the games that we've done where it's just been as physical as it has been in this one.
Willoughby inbounds and gets it in. Luke Stevens hounded by a double team and fouled. So he'll go to the line. You had Lewis and Alexander around the basketball as they'll call the third personal on Jaden Lewis. One thing for both of these coaches that as far as how hard their teams have played, that will not be in question once Coach Coker and Van Meter go to the locker rooms after this game. Free throw no good for Stevens.
Rims out.
One more to go.
I'd say at 11 seconds, it's about a moot point, isn't it, James?
I would say so, too. It's the free throw good for Luke Stevens. He has a team-high 14.
Lead is 9.
Jalen Alexander, a game-high 27 points tonight. As Lewis with the basketball, clock down to 7. Lewis goes in. Final three up and good for Caleb Sanders. Sanders his second triple as that does it for the night. As Fort Payne exits Oxford tonight with a hard-fought 51-45 win on the road in area play, 6A Area 13 against Oxford.
And I'll say this, Fort Payne will go home knowing they earned this one, and Oxford will go back to the locker room and once again look at a 6-point loss, not a 5, but a 6, and just say, what if?
Absolutely. They left some points around the basket and just couldn't make the plays that they needed to down the stretch in the second half. We'll take this timeout, and we'll begin our postgame after this.
The Calhoun County Commission, made up of Fred Wilson, Danny Shears, Carolyn Henderson, Terry Howell, and Lee Patterson, ask you to take a look at what Calhoun County has to offer. Our beautiful parks, neighborhoods, recreational facilities, historic sites, and museums. Our citizens enjoy a high quality of life and strongly support the arts. If you're considering expanding or starting a new business, take a look at Calhoun County. You'll be glad you did.
Step into the offices of J. Britt Middlebrook, CPA, where you'll find professional one-on-one service for business and individual clients. In this ever-changing tax and economic climate, you can count on receiving the expert advice you need. J. Britt Middlebrook works hard to provide every client what they need to meet all deadlines. Tax season will be here soon. For all your accounting service needs, call or stop by at 1913 Berry Street in Oxford. That's J. Britt Middlebrook, CPA.
A hard-fought slugfest tonight from Oxford High School for our FNN High School basketball game of the week as Fort Payne outlasts Oxford 51-45, and we'll take a look at some highlights from tonight as Caleb Sanders sank a three early in the first half. But it was Fort Payne, once they got going in the first quarter, able to take a lead and really be able to hold on to it for the rest of the game.
That one little run, James, we talk about it all the time about how basketball is a game of runs. That one little run that Fort Payne had in the second quarter that pushed that thing out to about 9 points, and that's what it took. And then basically they held on, and Oxford could not find a way to claw their way back into it.
But Jalen Alexander with an outstanding game tonight, as there you see a three from Luke Stevens, who finished with a team-high 14. But Alexander, one of his best games of the season, as he pulls up for the three of his game-high 27 points.
Well, you know, Oxford, think of it this way. They're going to probably play as the 3 seed in the area tournament. Do you want to play them as a 3 seed?
I do not.
I'm telling you, they could be deadly to either Gadsden City or Fort Payne when it comes to that area tournament, which will be coming up in a couple of weeks, I guess.
And then we get into the second half, as that was a big three by Josh Scott in the corner. Steal by Alexander as he pulls up and buries a 3.
Yeah, big game for Alexander tonight. Lots of points. Basically carried this team, but, you know, they're just 1 or 2 guys in the rotation, James, short of being a really, really good basketball team. Got to clean up the play down in the post. Missed way too many shots near the basket.
And here's a 3 late in the fourth quarter by Jordan Kelly, but that was too little too late for Oxford at that point, as the final 3 of the ball game by Caleb Sanders to close things out. But it was Fort Payne being able to outlast Oxford tonight on the road to close up area play for them with a 51-45 victory.
All right, up next for us, at least on the schedule that is JSU and the Northeast Regionals. There you see it from Pete Matthews Coliseum starting February the 13th, all 42 games, the semifinals and the finals, all 7 classifications on the NFHS network. You'll need a subscription to watch it. We'll be there to produce it and bring it to you. And we'll have a lot of basketball over those 9 days.
Should be a thrilling week and a half as far as the Northeast Regionals. Jacksonville State tradition at this point, over 3 decades strong now, as the Pete Matthews Coliseum at Jacksonville State ready in less than a month to host another HSAA Northeast Regional.
14 tickets to Birmingham come out of all this, so we'll see how it turns out. We'd like to show you all the folks that work behind the scenes for us to help you bring our basketball. We start by thanking Coach Larry Davidson, the athletic director here at Oxford High School, for arranging for us to be here tonight. Principal Heath Harmon, and, of course, head basketball coach Joel Van Meter for all of our folks behind the scenes on the cameras. Jake's working the computers over here. James Hardy to my right on the play-by-play. I'm Jim Jacobs. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in February for the Northeast Regionals here on FNN.
Has been an exclusive sports production of FNN, the Friday Night Network.